It's so delicious on the nose. I mean, I guess a nose could be delicious, but it's nose delicious. It's nose delicious. So, I've got a pretty decent whiskey collection. Now, I'm not saying it's as big as some folks here in Kentucky, but I've got a few bottles worth showing off. Before I go adding more to the shelf, I need to finish off some of the ones I already have. You know, my friend and Bourbon Hall of Famer, Freddie Johnson, always says bourbon is more than just a drink. It's about the stories we create while sharing it with others. Each episode of Last Pour is my way of honoring that idea by sharing the stories behind the bottles as I enjoy their very last pour. And today's guest of honor is Wilderness Trail, but it's not just any Wilderness Trail. This is a barrel pick selected for Bourbon on the Banks. This is the 2022 Bourbon on the Banks Festival, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and pour out our last pour. I'm sad to see this one gone. And by the way, I have not had this bottle since 2022. But I've been trying to hang on to this last pour for quite some time. If I'm going to be honest, I'm not a connoisseur of Wilderness Trail. I've had a couple bottles of theirs, and I like what they do. I like everything that I've bought that's had their name on. This is the first single barrel I've ever had of theirs, and like I said, it was selected for Bourbon on the Banks, and I'll get to this story of why this bottle is special in a minute. But when I smell this, I say this in just about every episode, but I'm a sweet bourbon kind of guy. I like the kick that bourbon has, and rye especially have a kick to it. But I like a sweet bourbon. I like it I love dessert bourbons, but I like a sweet bourbon. And this, right off the bat, there's something about this bottle. I get vanilla all day, and I'm not talking about vanilla extract. I'm talking about like Madagascar vanilla, like vanilla bean. It's so delicious on the nose. I mean, I guess a nose could be delicious, but it's nose delicious. It's nose delicious. And when you taste this thing, the vanilla doesn't stop at just the nose. It's vanilla all the way through. And to me, it's like a vanilla bomb. And that's in a good way. And there are very few bourbons, whiskeys that I've had in my career of tasting and being into bourbon. There's very few that I've tasted and immediately I could tell you exactly what I'm tasting. This is one of them. As soon as I tasted this, as soon as I smelled it and tasted it, vanilla all day long, vanilla. And I mean, not, people use that as a tasting note. I smell and I taste caramel and vanilla and oak and whatever. I don't mean like it has a taste of, or it's got a taste of vanilla. What I mean is it tastes like vanilla, like a vanilla cake. And I'll tell you a little bit about behind the scenes on this bottle. So in 2023, I started doing some video work for Bourbon on the Banks Festival here in Frankfort, Kentucky. I say here in Frankfort. Frankfort's about 40 miles south of me, 30 miles south of me. But in 2023, I started doing some work with them. We started doing a series called Undressing Bourbon, where we talked a little bit about the myths of bourbon. And 2023, I did work with them in 2024, and now this is 2025, and I'm doing work with them again. And each year we've kind of added on to Undressing Bourbon, giving it a new, different tweak and a different, kind of path. So like last year, we did the first year was Myths of Bourbon. Last year, we kind of talked about bringing it home, where we talked to some of the master distillers and the people that work in the bourbon industry and kind of how they got into bourbon, this kind of thing. This year, Undressing Bourbon is going to be about kind of the future of bourbon. So we're talking to not only distilleries, but we're talking to people in the hospitality industry and how they're using bourbon to bring people into Kentucky. None of that is what I really wanted to talk about for this episode, but I'm just letting you know that that's kind of what I'm doing for them. But also what we do is every year for the Bourbon on the Banks Festival, we go to different distilleries and do single barrel picks. This is what this one, in 2002, they went to Wilderness Trail, picked this out. And why this is so special to me is when I first started doing Bourbon on the Banks video work, they gave me this bottle kind of as a thank you for helping them, but also they wanted me to kind of taste it, because what I was going to also be doing is going in and filming some rick houses and filming some barrel picks that we do. And honestly, the coolest thing about that is, even as long as I had been in my bourbon journey from about 2015 on, I had never done a barrel pick. And so being with Bourbon on the Banks allowed me to do my first barrel picks, and I've probably done 10 or 12 with them since. So this bottle holds a special place to me, not because I helped pick it by any means, but because they gave it to me, and it represents what became an awesome partnership and friendship. I love the people over at Bourbon on the Banks. Diane does a fabulous job. Amzie, my buddy who works for the Frankfurt, or doesn't work for, he's the president of the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. He does kind of an okay job with everything he does there, but Diane is fabulous. So that's what this bottle represents to me. And so, you know, as I drink this final pour, the last pour, that's what I think about, and that's what this bottle represents to me. And so, post in the comments, you ever been on a barrel pick? Where did you go? What's been your favorite barrel pick? What do you like about barrel picks? What do you look for when you go on a barrel pick? Obviously, as I've done more of them, I look for different things. You know, when I first started doing barrel picks, I guess I was just, my favorite one was what I would vote for. However, in recent years, the last 5 or 6 times I've been on a barrel pick, it's not necessarily what my favorite is, but what stands out more. I'm working on another film right now about barrel picks and what they represent, what they mean. And in a lot of circles, in a lot of areas, single barrels really, technically, you want a single barrel that stands out. You don't want one that's just a better version of whatever bourbon that's on the shelf. You want something that really stands out. And so that's kind of what I'm learning. But I'd love to know kind of what you guys that have been on barrel picks, what do you think? But anyway, here's to, I just had to get another sip because I smelled it. Anyway, here's to Wilderness Trail. Here's to Bourbon on the Banks. By the way, I didn't mention this, but it is a nonprofit, and so their proceeds go to helping different organizations in and around Frankfurt, which is super, super cool. But here's to Wilderness Trail. Here's to Bourbon on the Banks. Here's to the friends that I've made in the bourbon industry. Here's to the fact that through Bourbon on the Banks, I've got to go on my first barrel picks, and I've done 10 or 12 since then just with them. Here's to that. Here's to friendships. Here's to vanilla. I mean, I'm telling you, here's to all that. So cheers, guys. That's it for Last Pour. Whether it's your first favorite or your latest discovery, make sure you enjoy it while it lasts. Until next time.